Hi, it's Erik Cole again with the Design Studio for Community Solutions. And we're thrilled today to have our program manager for the Design Studio who works on the Maryvale project, Allison Mullady, with us. Hi, Allison.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
to see you again, Erik.
It's only been a half an hour since we had that meeting.
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So we're just kind of having some get to know you conversations with different folks and questions. So we kind of wanted to ask, like, how did you get involved in all this kind of work and what inspires you?
Well, it's been a long journey. I think how I first got involved in this work was because of my work in education. So I very early on decided that I wanted to be a teacher. And I don't think at that time I was really drawn to it for like the same reasons I am now, but it was more like I was good with kids and it felt like something I could do and be successful at.
Mhm.
So I went to school to be a teacher, and I knew I wanted to work in areas where I felt like I could be useful and helpful. And so I worked in some various different settings in schools. But I think when I came to ASU for my graduate program and started learning about brain development back in like, I don't know, the early 2000s,
You don't
late
have, you don't have
90s
to pull it up.
ish, when brain development really started like kind of
Mhm.
getting momentum
Yeah.
in early childhood, and people were starting to realize how critical those early years of development were, that really shifted sort of my motivation and passion for pursuing more of a pathway for my career in
Mm.
early childhood. Because when I learned about that and I thought about my own childhood and like growing up, how I did, and my parents lived in a garage when I was born, and we had an outhouse and they had to go to the YMCA to take showers, and I never really thought about that in any way as like a shaping thing for me until I started learning about how the brain developed. And knowing, talking to my parents about the kinds of things that they did then with me, even without like financial resources, that they, would play music or go to the library. And so I felt like it was really important for parents to know that they didn't need like fancy things
Mm.
or expensive toys, or I would say leap pads, because that was like the popular thing back then, right?
Yeah.
Like that you can help your kids learn and grow at an early age without having that financial status.
Yeah.
Because I think at the time it was really like pushed that you had to buy these things and have these tools and like spend this money to do it. And the more I learned about that, it really is about like attention and bonding and communication, that I felt like that was just like a message that had to get out. Like it had to get into communities where maybe there was, a lot of families struggling socially, economically, and that they needed to feel like they had that power over their child's development and education.
Wow.
So that's
That's
kind of how I got like inspired to really focus on early childhood education.
so, and in your background, I mean, you've done a whole lot of different things, but you've set up and run a early Head Start center. You've run a child care center, and then of course there's your educational background as well.
Yeah, so I became a first and second grade teacher, and that was with my bachelor's degree. Then I came back to ASU, kind of sort of figuring out how I could pursue the early childhood aspect. And through that pathway, I received my PhD in early childhood education, and that gave me some really great opportunities to teach at the university. And as part of that role, working in school districts, I worked in a Title I school as an ASU faculty member for 3 years with my students. And so that was a really good experience to kind of bring me back to what was really happening in schools. And, sometimes we get disconnected when we're not there all the time. So it was a good 3-year experience for me to like reconnect with how hard it is to be a teacher, and what schools are struggling with to try to meet the needs of all these diverse learners. And when I was, so I've run a inclusive preschool program for children with special needs, and then also an early Head Start program.
That's great. So you're now working with the design studio, and we're focused on all of kind of the broad set of community issues and concerns in Maryvale. Tell us what you like about that, what that transition's been like for you.
Well, I was desperate to get a job working with the design studio when I heard about it. So true. I know you think it's not true, but it really was, because I felt like it was really like a culmination of all the things I cared about and like my experiences. So like the long, career that I had at ASU already, working as a, faculty member and in the community in different capacities. And then also with my school leadership positions, particularly in early Head Start, and kind of like seeing how providing like really broader, comprehensive services to families was really the key in helping them meet their goals that they had for themselves. And so when I heard about the approach of the design studio and the 1 Square Mile initiative being like rethinking how a university can engage in a community and support what's already happening, that was just like, I knew I had to be part of it, because it matched up with all my kind of like I said, my experiences, but also like my beliefs about helping people and being in the community, and what the university really could offer if we went in with more of a philosophy or approach of like listening and co-creating things with community members.
So well said. And I do laugh about it, but I think we really are lucky and fortunate to have the positions we have to get to do this work in this way, because I think you and I share a history of seeing things done, sometimes right, sometimes not quite right, but like a chance to work outside of silos and really address overall community needs. So we've all experienced, a wild couple of months that nobody's, really experienced before, and had all of our lives transformed to this medium, right? At least our work lives around Zoom. So tell us about what your experience has been like with all of the shift to working from home, quarantine, et cetera.
Well, it's been really hard.
Yep.
I think it's, in the beginning, it was like focusing on the lack of school, right? Like for my kids. And I remember right away thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be crazy, because I'm allegedly on paper an expert in teaching, and I taught first grade and my kid is in first grade. I taught second grade, my kid's going into second grade. So like, according to the world and what documents I have, I should be really good at this homeschooling and doing all this, but it's hard. And I really struggled. I'm still struggling, but I think in the beginning, just kind of like figuring out how to stay connected to my work, because I do care about it a lot. And I do want to continue like being supportive to the communities that we work with, but also balancing that with like, I have to look out for my kids' social emotional development, and like thinking about their feelings and emotions and like concerns during this time that like, and it's not even like I can help them because I've experienced it before. I think as a parent, you rely on your own lived experiences to like guide and advise your kids.
Yeah.
And there's no like, I don't have anything to pull from for this to like help them in that way. So it's been a struggle. I mean, it's just a lot of like reflecting and like being open to changing what we're doing every day, and being okay with like not being good at anything really. Like I'm not able to give 100% to anything, because I've got so many things that I have to attend to on a day-to-day basis, including myself, right? So like my kids and what's going on with them, my husband, my
Yep.
household, my work, friends, coworkers, but then also like your own like trauma and feelings of going through this weird time that you're not really sure like what to do with it.
Yep. Yep. So last question, that we've asked others as well, but what, if you had to give advice to somebody about, that will be going through like a time like this, what's your kind of one tip or your life hack that you think you would offer to somebody?
I think there's a lot of little things like going outside and self-care, taking time to do things. But I think like one of the things that I learned about a long, long time ago when I was in a very difficult section of my life was thinking about like what your circle, I think it's from like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People or something is where I first got it. But like, what's your circle of control? And then like your circle of concern. And so I try to keep coming back to that and even like tell my kids, especially my older daughter, like we've got to focus on like what we can actually control. And there's so much uncertainty right now of like what's happening in the world in lots of different ways now, right? Like not just with COVID-19, but with, the murder of George Floyd and all the other things that are happening in our world. And so I think like thinking about like what are the things that you can control and really focusing your energy on that. And then like, if it's completely out of your control and you can't really impact it, then, letting that kind of be off to the sideline for now, because it's just going to lead you down like a path of frustration. I mean, I use the example with like how our family has decided to still stay home, right? Like we can't control what everybody else is doing, but we can control our own actions and we can stay home and we can do what we think is safe and appropriate for our family, even though we can't like control what other people do.
Yeah. No, that's so well said. And it also the one I sticks in my brain is the serenity prayer, which is like, God, grant me the serenity to control the things I can control and, let the other things, not let them go. I mean,
right.
You are concerned, You're still engaged, but this can be so overwhelming right now that it helps to be able to focus. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks for talking with me.
You were a great guest. We knew you would be. And we'll see you on the next Zoom.
All right. Bye.
Hey, Allison.